Syracuse has yet to land someone in the class of 2026, but that could change pretty soon. Let's break it down.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in a Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. And of course, we are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we are joined by a high school and college basketball national recruiting expert, Sam Kayser. He's for League Ready. College basketball's early signing period actually begins today, Wednesday, November 12th, and it runs an entire week through Wednesday, November 19th. And here to talk about it, of course, is Sam Kayser. We're going over all the prospects in the class of 2026 that Syracuse could be eyeing, and who knows, maybe Sam Kayser on the show today is going to break some news that Syracuse is about to land the number 2 overall player in the country. I'm just kidding. Oh, wait, maybe I'm not kidding. I don't know. We'll see if Sam has any surprises for us here on today's show. But before we get into all the prospects that we're going to talk about here, a 5-star in Jordan Smith, a 5-star in Deron Rippey Jr., a 4-star in Asher Elson, I want to address the elephant in the room, Sam. In case you aren't aware, whether it's Sam right now or any Syracuse fan out there, Adrian Autry's job, and for this entire coaching staff in general, is on the line this season. It's been 4 years since Syracuse has made the tournament. For this coaching staff specifically, it is now year 3. They have not made the tournament yet. If they don't make the tournament this year, they're probably not going to be back for year 4. If they do make it, well, guess what? They will be back for year 4 in all likelihood. So, Sam, with that in mind, before we get into these prospects, how do you think Adrian Autry's job security right now is impacting Syracuse's recruiting, considering they don't have anyone so far in the class of 2026?
Well, Jackson, first of all, thanks for having me on. Love coming on the show. Best Syracuse show in the game right here. So thanks for having me on. But yeah, this is going to be a big season for Red Autry, no doubt. I mean, they got to get back to the tournament. That's number one. If they get back to the tournament, I really don't think they have anything to worry about. But it would be nice to have a couple recruits coming in. I mean, that's for sure. They got, 3 targets that we're going to talk about today that, 2 of which are honestly 2 of the best players in the country. So it all starts this year. It all starts on the floor with the guys they got. They've gotten off to a really good start, obviously 2-0 so far. But, continuing on that right path, dominating non-conference. I know they got a couple tough games coming up here in the next week or so. It all starts on the floor, man. I mean, they gotta win some games, and they got to get the product on the floor moved in the right direction before they start, I guess, getting commits. But I think we've talked about this just before the show. I mean, not having any guys coming out of high school isn't always the biggest issue at this point. With what you can bring in the portal, I mean, you can flip a roster in essentially 2 to 3 weeks nowadays. So I'm not too worried about it. I think as long as they're winning this year, everything's going to be on the right track, and they'll be back for year 4.
Awesome, Sam. And I do hope that they are back for year 4, because that means Syracuse won a lot of games this season. Let's get into the prospects, though, that Adrian Autry and his staff are eyeing in the class of 2026. And the big fish has got to be Jordan Smith, a 5-star combo guard, 6'2", 200 pounds. He is right now on 24/7 Sports rated the number 2 overall player in the nation. I mean, what a scrub. He can't even be number 1. He has to be number 2. Obviously, I'm kidding. With Jordan Smith, though, what's the scouting report on him?
Well, I mean, you're not going to find a more explosive guard in the country. This guy has long arms. He jumps out of the gym. And he's honestly, his skill level the last couple of years has gone up tremendously. I mean, I remember watching him when he was a freshman at Paul VI. And I remember being like, holy smokes, this guy's a freshman. I cannot believe it. Just with the way that he was competing against guys that were, 6'9". He's going up and out rebounding these guys and ripping the ball away from. I mean, he was unbelievable. So, I mean, the first thing that jumps off the page with him is his explosiveness, his ability to defend, get rebounds. obviously soar above the rim. It's his outside game that needs a little bit more work as far as scoring the ball and everything like that. But as far as explosiveness, build, he's as good as they get for a guard prospect, especially in 2026 when there are some strong guards on the board.
Based on what you're hearing, Sam, what is a possible timetable for Jordan Smith's decision?
Well, for me, I thought he was going to honestly announce sort of in this time frame, this week, or maybe even next. But it seems like he's taken a little bit of a slow road here. Before the end of this calendar year, it wouldn't shock me if he was committed maybe in the December month. But getting into 2026 and he's not committed, I'd be pretty surprised. Right now, I know Duke is sort of the pole position for him. As I said, he goes to Paul VI in Virginia. Duke has an unbelievable pipeline of guys that have come out of that school. Jeremy Roach, obviously, he played at Duke for a few years before going to Baylor. Trevor Keels was a stud for them. And now they have two guys from Jordan Smith's team that he played with his freshman and sophomore year. They have Darren Harris and Pat Ngongba on the roster right now. So when I look at his recruitment, that pipeline is strong. John Shire's gotten a lot of kids out of there. Glenn Farello, the head coach at Paul VI, he sent a lot of kids to Duke. And that's sort of where my head is with his recruitment right now. I know that they want him bad. And what we were just saying before the show, if Duke wants a guy, that for the most part, they usually get him. I know Arkansas, definitely, you can't count out Coach Cal in any recruitment. I know they're still definitely in the mix. And then the local school, Georgetown, they've been strong with him for quite some time. But right now, I definitely have Duke at the top of that list, sort of leading the way for Jordan Smith.
I can live with Duke. I can live with Arkansas because that's in the SEC. If he goes to Georgetown, I will not be happy, and I don't think any Syracuse fan would be happy either. That's just not good. Obviously, can't lose them to our biggest rival right there, which they're not even playing each other this year. So is it even a rivalry anymore?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but sorry, Sam.
No, hey, I must have had a tornado come through my house or an earthquake because it just got a little shifty.
Yeah. Well, Sam, let's say Jordan Smith, he were to commit to Syracuse. Now, he is a combo guard. So when you look at Syracuse's roster and you try to project it out to next year, we know Kiyan Anthony's only a freshman this year, so he's got eligibility. Nate George will have another year of eligibility beyond this season, and Nate George is a pretty good basketball player in his own right. So how do you think Jordan Smith, if he were to commit to Syracuse, factor into the rotation?
I think they put him right in at that wing spot. I mean, Nate George, Kiyan Anthony, Jordan Smith, that's a pretty good backcourt wing combination if you ask me. I mean, those guys, Kiyan is obviously he's a stud scorer. I mean, he's going to come in and score the ball. Jordan Smith does everything on the floor. He's not, you're not going to give him the ball and ask him to go get you 20 a game, but he's going to do all the nitty gritty stuff that helps you win basketball games. And then Nate George, you said it. I mean, he's a great point guard. Those three would be an excellent combination, a great trio for Syracuse if they could somehow pull in Jordan Smith in the next couple of weeks.
What do you think the odds are that they actually get him?
Not high. Definitely not high. It was great that they got Jordan in on a visit, I think probably 10 days ago now, an unofficial visit, but I don't see it super highly likely that he's a Syracuse Orange next year. I just can't see them taking him away from Duke, to be honest with you.
Sam, I appreciate the honesty, but if you hear all that sound in the distance, that's every Syracuse fan banging on the door saying, why didn't you say that the odds are very high that they're going to get the number 2 overall player in the country? But obviously, thank you so much for the insight on Jordan Smith. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Of course, we are joined by Sam Kayser, a college basketball and high school basketball national recruiting expert for League Ready. Let's get into another prospect here, another five-star player, Deron Rippey Jr., top 15 overall player in the nation, 6'2", 175-pound point guard. What's the scouting report on him?
Well, sort of like Jordan Smith Jr., the guy's as explosive as they come. He's a freak athlete. He's an outstanding defender, guards the ball like many other guards can't in the entire class. And as I said, he's a freak athlete. He can score the ball. He can make plays for his teammates. He's a really good all-around player. And he's a guy that, Syracuse has definitely been in on during his recruitment. His recruitment's been sort of crazy. I mean, you don't see a lot of kids nowadays taking 10 official visits throughout the year, but that's pretty much what Rippey's done. These last 3 months, he's been cross country every, part of the country you could possibly be in. But he's an outstanding player. His recruitment is sort of teetering, getting toward the end of the finish line. I see him cutting his list within the next week, probably down to 3 to 5 schools, if I were to guess. Whether Syracuse is on there I'm not totally sure, to be honest with you. But the 3 schools I sort of have for him right now, again, Duke, they're definitely up in the mix there. NC State is in the mix, and then Tennessee, I know, is also strongly involved there. NC State, I know, is really in on him hard. They've already brought in a pretty outstanding class so far. I mean, Cole Clore and then Trayvon Carter-Givens, a big man out of California. It's a really strong class, and if they could slide in Rippey next to him, that'd be outstanding. But what Will Wade has done in his first 6 to 8 months at NC State is pretty unbelievable. And if they could bring in Rippey, that'd be a big time get for them. But those are sort of the 3 schools I see at the forefront: Tennessee, NC State, and Duke right now.
What do you think the timetable is for him as far as a commitment is concerned? And how do you think that could impact Syracuse one way or another?
Well, as far as timetable, I mean, I'm looking same type of timetable as Jordan Smith, to be honest with you. I mean, he's going to cut his list again here within the week, if I were to guess. And if he wasn't committed by the end of the year, I'd be a little bit surprised. I know his family's super involved with his entire recruitment. They're taking it slow. They're not, rushing anything. So something within the next few weeks, maybe a month or two. That's sort of my expectation for them. As far as an effect on Syracuse, I mean, if they don't get him, I mean, I don't consider it the end of the world. I mean, as I said, the 10 other schools are involved right now, or 9 other schools are involved, including Syracuse, or other than Syracuse. So, I mean, there's going to be 9 unhappy camps when he finally does commit. So, it's not going to be the end of the world if he doesn't go there. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to come back and, what we just talked about, they're going to have to win games on the floor this year and sort of position themselves to how they're going to rebuild this roster come next season if they can't bring in Rippey or Smith.
And as great of a player as Deron Rippey Jr. could be for next season for Syracuse basketball, we also have to keep in mind that he plays the same position as Nathan George. And
Yep.
Nathan George has another year of eligibility. And Sam, based on what you're saying, it sounds like Deron Rippey could be a one-and-done type player. So as good of a prospect as he is, he might be going anywhere to be in the starting lineup right away. And at Syracuse, that might not necessarily be the case because you'd have to choose between, do you want Nathan George next year for one more season, or do you want to go with the young guy and Deron Rippey and kind of roll the dice on him, even though you think he's going to be a really good player? So, I mean, I'd ask you your opinion on this right now, but in my opinion, I think it's very obvious that I would target Jordan Smith a lot more than Deron Rippey. What about you?
100%. And I think you've seen them do that for the most part. Their involvement with Jordan Smith hasn't wavered. They're still trying to get him on campus. They're still staying involved, still, hitting him up, still reaching out, all that good stuff. But at the same time, you're never going to turn down a Deron Rippey if you can get him. So they're involved with both. I know they love both. I know they love one. They don't want to go without either of them. But I think getting Jordan Smith, I mean, that would be about as good as you can get on the recruiting trail with what's left for sure.
Awesome. Let's move on to another prospect here, a little bit more under the radar. This is not a 5-star, top 10, top 15, top 2 overall player in the nation. Asher Elson, a 3 or a 4-star, depending on the recruiting service you decide to use. He is a 6'10", 180-pound power forward. Sam, you have seen him play. What is the scouting report on Asher Elson?
A big forward, 6'10", as you said. He's athletic. He can run the floor. He can block shots. He's really a dynamic forward for what he can do. I know he's got a top 4 of Xavier, Syracuse, Maryland, and Auburn. He's been taking visits recently as well. Auburn just got his last visit, I believe, last weekend. And I know they're sort of in the pole position, them in Maryland, I'd say, in his recruitment right now. A lot of talk that he was going to actually commit today. I want to say this past week there was some talk he would commit during OTE signing day today, but that's not happening as of now. But a commitment within the next week would not surprise me at all. He's definitely at the end of the line, getting close to committing. So that's some news that we could see and hear from him within the next week or so.
Breaking news: Asher Elson to Syracuse.
I don't know about that. As I said, I've heard Auburn made a pretty good impression with him on his last visit, and I know Maryland had a good spot with him as well. So it's going to be a tight race to the finish. I know he's right at the end of the line there. We'll see if Syracuse can push it over the edge. You never know with the NIL era and a last-second offer coming onto the table. But, yeah, Auburn and Maryland are the 2 schools that I'm looking at right now for him.
Got it. Well, let's just say Syracuse were to be the team that pulls forward in the end, their underdog story, and they find a way to go get Asher Elson. Now, obviously, he's a power forward. Currently, Syracuse has 2 power forwards on the roster that would technically have eligibility for next season, Donnie Freeman and Sadiq White. I think we can assume that Donnie Freeman will not be back with Syracuse next year, and that's a good thing because he's really good. He is most likely going to go pro, whether it's G League or the NBA altogether. So with no Donnie Freeman on the roster for next year, and assuming Sadiq White is back for year 2, how would you view a power forward tandem of Sadiq White and Asher Elson for Syracuse next year?
Well, it's a pretty damn good one. I mean, if you could keep or have those 2 guys on a team, especially if Sadiq can progress to what many people think he can be. I mean, Sadiq is one of the more coming out of 2025 class. He was one of my favorite forwards in that class, just with his versatility, his length, and really everything he can do. So by next year he will be the full-fledged starter if he's still around. I mean, he's going to be an absolute stud of a player. And I'd picture Elson coming in, backing him up, playing a 15 to 20-minute role, and making an impact in the minutes that he gets. But yeah, that would be a heck of a forward duo, and you guys would be absolutely blessed to get another year of Sadiq White as well.
And based on what you're saying, it sounds like Asher Elson's honestly a perfect fit with Syracuse. Based on how they constructed their roster this year, which is a bunch of guys who can run up and down the floor, guys who are super athletic that can play above the rim, that sounds like Asher Elson to me. So he can make an impact right away with Syracuse, even if he is not someone that's, a top 15 overall player in the country. He's still a pretty nice prospect, a 4-star or 3-star, depending on the service. And if he can give you 15 to 20 minutes as a true freshman, I would call that a win for Syracuse basketball. So now, Sam, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Out of Jordan Smith, Deron Rippey, and Asher Elson, who is most likely to commit to Syracuse?
Got to go with Elson right now. I mean, as I said, he's down to those 4 schools. I know Auburn and Maryland, they're definitely in a good spot. But as I said, there's 4 schools involved there. He's taking a visit to Syracuse. Syracuse and the staff, they're obviously invested in recruiting him. So, you never say never in recruiting. One domino could lead to another, and all hell could break loose. And he could be, committing to you guys by next week. So right now, I'd say Elson of the 3 is probably the most likely.
And in your opinion, how many of those 3 do you think that Syracuse gets?
0.
See, that wasn't the answer I wanted to hear. I was hoping you would say at least 1, but you know what? I appreciate the honesty, and I think every Syracuse fan appreciates it.
It's definitely not the answer I wanted to give. I can tell you that. I mean, you guys have started the year off hot. I want good news for Syracuse. Nothing going down. I don't want any bad news on this podcast. But yeah, right now I'd say 0. Never know, as I said, but I think all 3 of those guys at the moment are trending in different directions.
And so, Sam, I just want to be clear. You don't have any anti-Syracuse bias?
Absolutely not. I know I'm wearing a DePaul shirt here. I'm a DePaul guy at heart, former old Big East foes, but no bias here.
I figured. But it's just for people that, want to go all up in arms about why Sam Kayser, a national recruiting expert, very well respected in the industry, is saying that Syracuse is not going to land any of the 3 players that we just mentioned. But hey, card subject to change. You never really know in recruiting until you actually know, until someone puts pen to paper. And hey, in this day and age, pen to paper, is it really pen to paper anymore? I don't really know. It seems like that paper just gets ripped up in this day and age.
And I know we were talking a little bit before the pod, but we were talking about Will Wade, what he's done at NC State, and I brought it up a little bit earlier. I mean, just because they don't have anybody right now doesn't mean they won't have anyone come next summer when a whole new team's getting on campus. We saw, Will Wade, he goes into NC State, he gets one of the top prospects in the 25 class in Matthew Abel to flip his commitment from Miami to NC State, brings in one of the top freshmen in the country. So that could happen in Syracuse case. It could happen in any other school's case. You never know in recruiting, and down the line, that's why you recruit these kids coming out of high school. You could get them in the portal.
Exactly. And also another example is Louisville. I mean, we're all watching Louisville right now. They look like one of the best teams in the country currently. But if you remember year 1 of Pat Kelsey, if you want to go look at the recruiting trail, he got a guy from Michigan
Yep.
to decommit and then obviously commit to Louisville. I believe that was Ruths.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
Yep.
That was a big one. And I know Syracuse was maybe eyeing him for a little bit as well. Another question that some people brought up to me about Syracuse is that, are there any players that Syracuse is looking at in the class of 2027 that could be possibly reclassifying to the class of 2026?
Well, it's still early for sure for the 2027s. I think you'll start to see a little bit more movement here within, as the season gets going, we get into conference play and you start to see a couple of those top prospects get on campus for some official visits. Syracuse hasn't made too many moves in the 27 class yet. I know they haven't really been hosting too many visitors from that class yet. One guy that does stand out, that a potential reclass, would be Musa Kamasoko from Long Island Lutheran. I know there is some interest there from Syracuse. Obviously, that's where Kiyan Anthony went. That's where Nigel James, who Syracuse was also recruiting, went. So they have some good ties to that high school program. Musa he's still young. He's going to be a junior this year, but he's one of the top 2027s in the class. So he's a guy that you could look at as a potential reclass down the line, whether that's the Syracuse, it's yet to be seen. But I think with the Syracuse 2027 recruiting picture, that'll start to take shape here within the next month, 2 months as the season gets a little deeper.
Awesome. And before we dive into perhaps Kiyan Anthony and Sadiq White and their starts to the season, is there anyone else that we should keep an eye on for Syracuse in the class of 2026? Any other names that we have not mentioned so far? Jordan Smith, Deron Rippey, and Asher Elson.
Right now, not really. I've checked in a little bit on the Syracuse 2026 front, and it seems like those 3 guys are the main guys that they're going after. So is it possible that after, if they don't get any of those 3 guys, they may change course and headed, a different direction? Yes, that's possible. But one thing I think you've seen with this 2026 class is the portal era, we start to get deeper into the portal era itself. A lot of these high school kids are committing before their season even starts. So if you go look at the top 100 on ESPN, I mean, I'd say 75% of those kids are committed at this point. So it's funny, the top 15, you see a lot of opening, not a lot of movement yet. But I think once a couple of those dominoes begin to fall, you'll start to see a lot more prospects fly off the board. And there's not going to be as many guys left on the table once you miss out on, if Syracuse does miss out on 3 guys, then, I mean, it's sort of like a where do you go from here type thing. So it's a tough thing in the portal era to recruit freshmen and have them be effective and impactful right away. But, again, that's why you recruit them at all, is because you might get a second chance down the line. So you never know.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We are joined by Sam Kayser, a college basketball and high school basketball recruiting expert. Thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon here on Locked On Syracuse. Let's transition to on the court right now for Syracuse basketball. Now, you were on the show back, I believe, I want to say April of 2024. And we were talking about Kiyan Anthony, and we were talking about Sadiq White. I just want to say, because I went back and I actually rewatched that interview a little bit, you were spot on with both of those players based on the first 2 games of the season so far. So shout out to you. You did your scouting pretty well on those guys. But let's go to Kiyan Anthony here for just a moment, okay? And his start. What do you make of it, and how do you think he could evolve as a player over time?
Well, he's had a great start. I mean, there's no denying that. And I mean, it's not great when you see a JJ Starling go down in the first game like he did. But, the bright side of that is it's giving Kiyan a lot more of a leash to go in, get shots up, and make mistakes that all freshmen are bound to make their freshman year. He's done an awesome job scoring the ball, which I know that's not the biggest shocker in Anthony at Syracuse, scoring the ball. But he's done a good job getting downhill, not just relying on his jump shot. He's put the ball on the floor, and he's just watching his film. I mean, some of his finishes around the basket have been pretty impressive. He's done a good job, as I said, getting downhill, getting into the paint and getting into the mid range and getting to his spots. I mean, I've really been impressed with that. And then obviously his 3-point shooting. I mean, that's he's going to be a driller this year for the most part. I mean, he's going to knock down a lot of threes, and hopefully he gets the opportunity once JJ comes back to stay in the game for as long as he's been playing if he's effective. He's done a really outstanding job, and I'm not expecting him to average 20 a game this year, but I am expecting him to do more of what we've already seen him, score the ball, knock down shots, and make an impact on the offensive end. And coming out of high school, his question marks primarily were on the defensive end, and I think he's done a pretty good job on that end as well.
How do you project his future outlook?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it is a legit question. I mean, how long is he going to be at Syracuse? I mean, he wasn't necessarily an ideal one and done prospect coming out of high school. And maybe he's still not. Again, there's questions on the defensive end for him and his body. You want to see him fill into his body a little bit more. But, I mean, if he keeps playing like he has the first 2 games, I mean, there's going to be some talk of a potential one and done for Kiyan. I see him as more of a 2 to 3 year player and a guy that is going to impact the program for a multiple years. But again, you never know. He keeps playing well. You could see that stock skyrocket, and hopefully for his sake, he's on draft boards come February, March, and the end of the season.
My personal opinion about Kiyan Anthony is that I think he's going to be a 2-year player, and it's not because I don't think he's capable of being one and done by the end of the season. I just think that this is an incredible freshman class that is coming in right now. Yep. I mean, it seems like everyone across the country is hitting the jackpot with their recruits. It's not just Kiyan Anthony, and we'll get to Sadiq White in just a moment, that look good for Syracuse. I mean, go around the country, pick a team. They have a true freshman right now that just looks like an absolute stud. I mean, you watched the Louisville, Kentucky game last night. I mean, that kid, Mikal Brown Jr., he is awesome.
He's a dog.
And that's just one guy. That's just one. I mean, there's probably like 15 of that guy around the country. And so as great as Kiyan is playing, there's another 15 freshmen that are playing just as well right now because it is just an insane freshman class. And maybe that impacts him and whether or not he wants to come out this year or perhaps stay another year at Syracuse, maybe make a little bit more money and then go perhaps to the NBA. But time will tell. And hey, it would be a great problem to have if Kiyan Anthony develops so much this year and he becomes a one and done player for Syracuse basketball.
And
Let's move on.
to add to that, I think that's a good point by you. There's just so many talented freshmen that are making an impact right away. And I mean, we discussed the Virginia Tech kid, Neo Abdallas. I mean, I hadn't even heard of him. I hadn't even seen him play before last week. And he comes up and he puts 30 on Providence, and the whole world is freaking out about how good of a player this guy is. There's a lot of guys like that. So I think it's a good point by you. That could be a benefit for Syracuse at the end of the day because that might push Kiyan Anthony a little bit further down draft boards than you may see in other years.
And you know what NBA teams are saying if that were to happen? Come to the NBA because, the deeper the draft, those teams picking 25, 30 all of a sudden are sitting here, we're championship contenders. We can use you, in the future. You never know. That's what they're going to say. So, we'll see. We'll see on Kiyan Anthony. Let's now move on to Sadiq White. You called him maybe or arguably the best defender in the class of 2025. What do you make of his start so far for Syracuse?
Well, it's a little bit reminiscent in a way to Donnie Freeman last year. A little bit slow on the offensive end to start his first couple games, but you just see it with him, man. Like he is just such a versatile player on the defensive end. He flies around, he blocks shots, his length impacts everything the offense is trying to do. He can switch out onto guards, he can guard bigs. I mean, he is as versatile of a defender and athlete as you could ask. So far, I've seen most of his buckets have come off, just simply playing hard, running the floor, making hard cuts on offense, and finishing around the basket. When he starts to knock down his jump shot, he is going to be as scary of a player in college basketball. I mean, he's going to have games this year, I'm sure, where he hits a 3 or 2, and you're like, holy smokes, this guy is pretty good. And he's going to have games where he, bricks threes and doesn't make anything. But once he starts to hit that jump shot, he is going to be as scary of a player as they come in the ACC. He's going to be an absolute stud and a two-way stud at that, doing it on both ends, offense and defense. He's really as good as they get.
That's definitely a good point that you bring up about Sadiq White and his versatility, because I've noticed that too in games. He can guard 1 through 4.
Yep.
He really can. He has the athleticism. He has the size to be able to do it. Now, obviously, we're talking about, very low mid-major teams here. Yep. These are not Binghamton and I'm already forgetting Delaware State in the first 2 games. I mean, these are not exactly college basketball powerhouse teams, but when they go up against better competition, I do feel somewhat confident that Sadiq White is going to be able to hold his own because he is ultra athletic and he can go up and down the floor. So yeah, he looks really good so far. And so along the same lines of Kiyan Anthony, I mean, how do you project his future outlook? Do you see him as maybe a one and done player or perhaps a multi-year player in college basketball?
I see the same with Kiyan. I see a multi-year player with Sadiq White. Not that, he doesn't have the intangibles to get drafted this year, because I think he certainly does, but is his offensive game going to be at that point where an NBA team's like, hey, let's take a chance on this guy? I'm not sure it's going to be there by the end of this year, but that's why I think another year staying at Syracuse, maybe even next year being more of the focal guy if Donnie Freeman does in fact go to the NBA, I think that would do him wonders, and it would really showcase his ability, not only that he's gotten better, but what he can do going forward for an NBA team, because likely he's not going to be a go-to scorer in the NBA. That's just probably not what it's going to be. He's going to impact the game in the other areas, like he's going to do this year at Syracuse, but probably just to a greater degree once he gets to his sophomore year. He's gonna get so much better and be way higher on the NBA team's radars come his sophomore year.
Sam, thank you so much for the insight. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you again for having me on the pod. Love coming on, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Hopefully we can soon. And where can people find your work, Sam?
Check me out on Twitter, Kayser Hoops, Kayser Hoops. Shoot me a DM. We can chop it up in the DMs. Always happy to answer questions. And answer whatever I can.
Hope you all enjoyed hearing from Sam Kayser, a national recruiting expert. Now, coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the near future, tomorrow we will talk some Syracuse football, why Fran Brown is the right coach for Syracuse football long term, despite a pretty awful 2025 season, if we're being honest. And then on Friday, we have on Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House. And of course, on Saturday, Syracuse basketball takes on Drexel in the afternoon. We will have a full post-game reaction podcast to that game. So, folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and I will see you all again soon.